The skies became darker, and the air was filled with the sounds of engines roaring. The plane was violently shaking, with the crew struggling to maintain control. As the B-2 bomber cut through the night sky on a mission for several hours, when suddenly the plane began to shake violently. Its engines burnt as it started going down through the darkness. As the bomber lost control, it was surprising that the pilots were not worried about them crashing down, but rather the load the bomber was carrying. The B-52 bomber was carrying two 4-megaton Mark 39 nuclear bombs, each with more than 250 times the destructive power of the Hiroshima bomb and large enough to have a 100% kill zone of 17 miles. To make matters worse, it was flying over a heavily populated area of North Carolina. The crew knew they were going to crash as the plane descended towards the ground. They attempted to activate the emergency systems, but they were unresponsive. The plane was going down fast, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. At around midnight on the 23rd of January 1961, a B-52G based at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base in Goldsboro was on a 24-hour Operation Cover All Airborne Alert mission on the Atlantic seaboard of the United States. The operation was part of a larger Cold War program called the First Single Integrated Operational Plan. This early plan called for 1/3 of the Strategic Air Command's fleet of nuclear bombers to be airborne at any point in time, so that in the event of war, the fleet would not be caught on the ground and be able to fly directly to targets in the Soviet Union. As the bomber prepared to aerial refuel with a tanker for mid-air refueling, during the hookup, the tanker crew advised the B-52 aircraft commander, Major W. Estelick, that his aircraft had a leak in the right wing. The refueling was aborted, and ground control was notified of the problem. The aircraft was directed to assume a holding pattern off the coast until the majority of fuel was consumed. However, when the B-52 reached its assigned position, the pilot reported that the leak had worsened and its tanks were almost empty. It had lost 37,000 pounds of fuel in just 3 minutes. With its tanks empty, the bomber was immediately directed to return and land at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. As it descended to 10,000 feet on its approach to the airfield, the pilots were no longer able to keep the aircraft in trim and lost control of it. The captain knew they were going down to crash. And this was not an ordinary aircraft crash, but a nuclear bomb crash. So he ordered the crew to bail out the plane, which they did at 9,000 feet. As they bailed out the plane, they left 2 pilots with the 2 nuclear bombs on board still struggling to gain control of the bomber. At an unknown altitude, the 2 nuclear bombs separated from the gyrating aircraft as it broke up in between 10,000 and 2,000 feet. Both the bailed-out crew and the remaining pilots waited for the uncertainty to occur. However, the 2 crew members who remained on the plane got the uncertainty first when the gyrating aircraft finally crashed. 5 of the crew that had bailed out landed safely. However, catastrophe began when 1 crew ejected but did not survive the landing. A few hours later, the wreckage of the aircraft was found and it covered a 2-square-mile area of tobacco and cotton farmland at Faro, about 12 miles north of Goldsboro, with the 2 remaining pilots killed. Bad and good news: the nuclear search and recovery. Just after the bomber had crashed, the US Air Force used everything and everyone to search and recover the bombs. The first bomb descended and deployed a parachute as it was preparing to detonate, but luckily its parachute was caught up in a tree, preventing it from high impact falling and hopefully from detonating. The bomb was found intact and standing upright as a result of its parachute being caught in a tree. Lieutenant Jack Revell, the explosive ordnance disposal officer responsible for disarming and securing the bombs from the crashed aircraft, stated that the arms safe switch was still in the safe position, although it had completed the rest of the arming sequence. The Pentagon claimed at the time that there was no chance of an explosion and that two arming mechanisms had not activated. A United States Department of Defense spokesperson at the time stated that the bomb was unarmed and could not explode. However, the former military analyst Daniel Ellsberg claimed to have seen highly classified documents indicating that its safe arm switch was the only one of the 6 arming devices on the bomb that prevented detonation. In 2013, declassified information released as a result of a Freedom of Information Act request confirmed that a single switch out of 4 prevented detonation, with 3 of the 4 required triggering mechanisms having been activated. The merciful high-voltage switch. The second bomb plunged into a muddy field at around 700 miles per hour and disintegrated without detonation of its conventional explosives. Although the bomb was partially armed when it left the aircraft, an unclosed high-voltage switch had prevented it from fully arming. The tail was discovered about 20 feet below ground. Pieces of the bomb were recovered. The excavation of the second bomb was eventually abandoned as a result of uncontrollable groundwater flooding. Most of the thermonuclear stage of the bomb was left in place, but the pit, or core, containing uranium and plutonium which is needed to trigger a nuclear explosion was removed. The United States Army Corps of Engineers purchased a 400-foot diameter circular easement over the buried component. This site of the easement is clearly visible as a circle of trees in the middle of a plowed field on Google Earth. If the bombs had exploded, each bomb would exceed the yield of all munitions outside of testing ever detonated in the history of the world by TNT, gunpowder, conventional bombs, and the Hiroshima and Nagasaki blasts all combined, and would have changed the course of nuclear weapons. We upload such videos on this channel more frequently, so it's best if you subscribe so you don't miss out when a new video is uploaded.